I would like to pay my respects to all the First Nations mob elders, past, present, and emerging. So my organisation is called About Time for Justice, and we work in prison systems with survivors of institutional child abuse. So my background, I'm a law student at the University of New England, and I started in jail. I went through abuse. I grew up in jails in a lower socioeconomic background. So diversity in law for me, personally, has been good because there's been a lot of positive feedback about me stepping up to the plate and having a crack after being through what I've been through. And also, like, professionally, I see a lot of people, lawyers that work with survivors in the prison systems. It's awesome to see them get down and be able to communicate with the people in the prison systems, because there is a very diverse group in the prison systems. You've got a lot of First Nations mob, you've got a lot of people that come from a background similar to myself. So in the professional sense, it's really good to see, in particular in institutional abuse space and criminal lawyers doing the work in the prison systems, come from a background like myself. And if you can't communicate with your clients when you're speaking to them, you're not going to be able to get the answers that you need. For example, if you can't, sort of build up that trust with a survivor of institutional child abuse, they won't feel comfortable to tell you, who their abuser was, who their perpetrator was. I know there's lawyers in this room that have built good relationships and rapport with their clients so they can get the help that they need. And not being able to understand somebody's background and being able to relate to them about their diversity, it can really impact how you communicate with any of your clients. So it's super important to understand the diversity, come from a background like myself. And if you can't communicate with your clients when you're speaking to them, you're not going to be able to get the answers that you need. For example, if you can't, sort of build up that trust with a survivor of institutional child abuse, they won't feel comfortable to tell you, who their abuser was, who their perpetrator was. I know there's lawyers in this room that have built good relationships and rapport with their clients so they can get the help that they need. And not being able to understand somebody's background and being able to relate to them about their diversity, it can really impact how you communicate with any of your clients. So it's super important to understand the diversity. Language barrier is definitely a big one. I also think that some barriers that could be fixed in the court system, and also with lawyers in particular, could be more culturally trained and also trauma informed, because somebody who's been through trauma, it's very hard for them to communicate and to talk. But at the end of the day, I suppose that comes down to funding too. In my organisation, we provide that to our staff. So if there's somebody who's been through institutional abuse, we also work with First Nations mob stolen generation. So when we work in specific communities, like I went to a community in the Northern Territory called Water, it has the highest incarceration rate in Northern Territory. Just before I went there was a riot, and there was about 500 people versus 800 people. They were spearing each other. When I was there at court, lots of these people, lots of the First Nations mob were coming into Water, which is where a bush court is. So to get to a bush court, it's a big thing. Like, most of the people out there don't even have cars to get to court. So they're walking into a court where they're, like what you're saying, that first language isn't English. Second, third language is, not even English sometimes. So it can be very hard for them to walk into a white man court and understand what they're saying, On top of that, when the other professionals in the room are trauma-informed or culturally trained, they're speaking a different language. I think some more training and education around that would be really good.
What benefits do you think diversity, inclusion in law has on the women?
Thank you, that was awesome. I think there could be some great benefits bringing the diversity and inclusion into the legal world in a few different perspectives. The whole reason I'm here is because I'm here to talk about my experiences and things like that. So I'm just bringing my perspective. It's awesome to hear all of your perspectives. But I feel like, somebody with lived experience can definitely communicate with a client, especially in criminal matters or institutional abuse, in a different way that maybe somebody else could. So having that lived experience and having somebody with a criminal background can sometimes be a benefit, because they can really understand what their client's going through, what they've been through in their life. I don't have too much more to add to that one, but I can jump into the next question. Everyone sort of nailed it. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. The question is, in what ways and initiatives have you seen put in place by organisations that have been successful in promoting diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, that's awesome. So a really good organisation is called Sisters Inside. It's in West End. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Sisters Inside. Upstairs from Sisters Inside is a law firm called Kilroy and Callahan. It was founded by Debbie Kilroy. She has an experience of going to jail. I think she spent 8 years in jail. Her partner and her were done for drug trafficking or something along those lines. But she used her lived experience of going through jails and seeing all the negative things of how the women were treated in jail. Her partner's First Nations. And so she's created Sisters Inside. She does a lot of pro bono work too, helping people through coronial inquests. So if there's a death in custody, we would normally reach out to her and say, hey, someone's died in custody, what are the next steps? So for me, having someone like that who has lived experience, I can pick up the phone and call her and say, hey, what do you think about this, Debbie? She'll just take like an hour out of her time and tell me all the organisations that are working with deaths in custody. Which, imagine if your loved one died in custody, it's horrific, it's very traumatising. If your loved one dies at all. So having organisations like that who provide them types of services is awesome. And that feeds down to our organisation, and then we can, feed out that information to all the people that we come across that have deaths in custody. On top of that, they have Sisters Inside, which runs parole programs so that when they get out for like mums and bubs. So, some ladies in prison right now are pregnant. They have their kids in jail. And that's pretty sad, isn't it? Really. But yeah, organisations like that provide different services to a diverse group. I think that organisation is amazing.
Kind of commented throughout the panel. We've talked a lot about how diversity or how to practice good diversity approaches within the legal profession and how it should be implemented in the education. But most of us as students in this room, how would you recommend, taking what we've learned today and applying it as students rather than as legal professionals?
I feel like that's one of the long questions. I mean, places that I've worked in when I go to like remote Indigenous communities, we have like men's circles. I'm not First Nations. I just get welcome into communities through connections that I have in community. And a safe place that I see when we work in community is in healing circles. So the community will come together. An example of that is when I was in Alice Springs. I went out to a community called Santa Teresa was this example. So Alice Springs is obviously in the middle of Australia. If they get to Alice Springs, it takes about 3 hours to drive to this community. And all the men and the women all sit around in a circle. And we cooked up kangaroo tails and we just sat around talking, having cups of tea. That was a safe place for me with them there. And a safe place for me in my workplace, I suppose, is having a debrief. Just we work remotely, so a safe place for me would be, just maybe hooking up that time to have the conversation about whatever it is that you're stressed out about, whatever it is that you're going through in your life, in your family, outside of work. Sometimes you need to have a debrief, and that's a safe place for me.
Yeah, I never mentioned safe place. What I do